warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, evening, and night, everybody. Dear Miss Nadia, as a lecturer the language teaching method course, which we love all of you, friend. Introduce you from Group 2, bringing material teaching pronunciation by using the direct method for this opportunity. Before that, let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Kartika Puspadewi, then there is Anissa Trisuprabawati, then Mukhairun Nurzaini, and finally Abdul Gofur, who will accompany you for the next few minutes. To save time, we immediately start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before we learn more about teaching pronunciation by using the direct method, first we must know what is definition of direct method. Direct method in teaching a language is directly establishing an immediate and audiovisual association between experience and expressions, words and process, idioms and meanings, roles and performance through the teacher's body and mental skills, without any help of the learner's mother tongue. Direct method of teaching language aims to build a direct way into the world of the target language, making a relation between experience and language, word and idea, talk and expression, role and performance. This method intends for students to learn how to communicate in the target language. This method is based on the assumption that the learner should experience the new language in the same way as he or she experienced his or her mother tongue without considering the existence of his or her mother tongue. The direct teaching method is a method of foreign and second language teaching which consists that only the target language should be used in class and meaning should be communicated directly by associating speech forms with actions, objects, meme, gesture, and situations. The direct method has one basic rule, and that is that no translation is allowed. The meaning of the name direct method comes from the fact that meaning is to be conveyed directly into the second language, talk, demonstration, and visual aids. Based on the principles, it uses the way how most people have traditionally acquired language in early stage. It means that it is a must to use the target language in presenting the new vocabulary and in communication, and the teacher must use the pictures, gesture, realia, or by using the target language that is familiar to the students in explaining the new words. In the other words, the direct method is regarded effective in teaching English speaking. And there is typical features of a direct method lessons. First, target language. Second, teacher or learner centric. Third, teacher explains new vocab through pictures, realia, or miming. Fourth, students are encouraged to speak in the target language in real context. Example, at the doctor's or going shopping, or about real topics. Example, sport or money. Fifth, students are not taught grammar explicitly. They encounter examples and are asked to deduce the rule. Vocabulary is practiced by using new words in context. The direct method also have characteristics of teaching English. The direct method of teaching English is one of the most widely known methods. It enjoys immense popularity because it overcame the two major defects of the grammar translation method. It substituted language content for grammar recitation and language use for translations. The selling feature of the direct method of English teaching as follows: A. Emphasis on oral language. B. Intensive speech practice usually with training in phonetics. C. The exclusive use new language. D. The approach initially inacceptable and the choice to the mother tongue either for exercise on translation or for clarification of vocabulary and grammar. E. It was hopefully expected that by banishing the language from the classroom, the students would be compelled to do their thinking in the new medium. F. The learner experienced the new language in the same way in which he has experienced his mother tongue. Teachers who use this method force students to understand the meaning of the target language directly. To do this, when the teacher introduces a word or phrase in the target language, the teacher demonstrates its meaning through the use of realia, picture, or pantomime. The teacher must not interpret the student's native language directly. And what's the purpose of using direct method? Teachers who use the direct method wants their students to learn how to communicate by using the language being learned as their target language. In order for this hope to be realized, students must learn to think using the language being studied as their target language, without allowing native language to appear during lessons.
Teacher-student interaction in the direct method. The interaction between teachers and students goes from two directions, either from teacher to student or from student to teacher, but most interaction go from teacher to student. There is also a lot of interaction between students in this method. The teaching and learning process carried out in the classroom so far is often one way, where students only listen to what the teacher says. Therefore, students are more actively involved in interacting with teacher or between students. The percentage of students' ability to understand and remember what material they had previously studied was only 5% if they just listened to the teacher's explanation. Interaction is also an important point in teaching and learning activities because not only students get the benefit, but also teachers also get feedback on whether the material present can be received by students well. Advantages of direct method in teaching English. First, it is natural method. In the direct method, the order of teaching is observing, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. This is the natural order of the learning a language. The method makes use of demonstration and conversation. Second, it gives fluency of speech. As a lot of attention is paid to oral training in this method, the students acquire fluency of speech. This is the reason why students who are taught by the direct are fluent speakers as compared to those who are taught by the translation method. Third, it improves pronunciation. As the students are made to speak a lot and they are also taught phonetics, their pronunciation improves. Fourth, it aids written work. Fluency of speech leads to case in writing. To express themselves in writing, the students have only to learn spellings. If a student can express as himself clearly in speaking, he can express himself in writing as well. 5. It facilitates the study of literature. It is believed that since the students acquires an ear for the language in direct method, it facilitates the study of literature. 6. It makes use of audiovisual aids. Audiovisual aids are used in the direct method. This makes the lesson interesting. Disadvantage of direct method teaching of English language. First, it is an incomplete method. Direct method lies too much emphasis on speaking. It neglects reading and writing. The tendency is to give insufficient attention to reading and not to teach written work systematically. Second, it requires efficient teachers. Every teacher can make a success of the direct method. Only that teacher can work out this method successfully. Who are good at English, especially conversational English. Third, it requires linguistic-minded students. Direct method can success only with those students who are linguistically minded. That is, students who have got a fine ear for the language. Only the clever student can profit by this method. Fourth, material facilities are not available. Direct method requires the use of audiovisual aids, but these are not available in a majority of our schools. 5. The classes are overcrowded. Small classes are needed for the direct method so that the teacher can pay individual attention. But in majority of schools, the classes are very large. 6. It is difficult for explanation. The meaning of new words in the direct method is explained by material association, explanation in the target language, and use in suitable context. The mother tongue is not used also in certain cases. Its use more economical and effective in telling meaning. Problem in teaching pronunciation. Pronouncing the second language, English, may be more difficult than mother tongue for the learners because they have different pronunciation. In English, it's often the writing was different with its sound. The spelling was not a reliable guide to know how a word is pronounced. It was one of the reasons why the learners often felt difficult to pronounce English words correctly. It was different with Indonesian language that the pronunciation of the words can be predictable. Why English words differ in pronunciation from the writing of these words is because English words are not representative of phonetics, which is manifested in phonetic symbols is called the International Phonetic Alphabet. Other reason of the problem above was students used their mother tongue more than English in their daily life. Even in the school, the use of mother tongue frequently influences the students' ability in producing the different sounds of different language. They were least practice of English. Therefore, the student felt difficult to pronounce English word correctly because they were not accustomed to it. According to Harmer 2001, 185, the key to successful pronunciation teaching, however, is not so much getting students to produce correct sounds or intonation, but rather than to have them listen and notice how English is spoken either on audio or videotape or teachers themselves. It means the teacher needs to give more example or show the students the way how to produce the correct sounds rather than ask students produce more sounds. The teacher might be a model to show how the sounds produced then students imitate. This is why teaching pronunciation is preferable to using the direct method. Before you learn how to speak, you will need to learn how to listen. Some sounds can be hard to tell apart when you are listening. Did the speaker sleep or sleep? Did he heard this chin or his sin? If you can hear the difference, it will be easier to speak the difference. There are many guides to get you started in learning to listen. We have some great articles here about listening to listen from movies, songs, and music and podcasts. You can also find listening exercise online like this one from Rong Chan. The pronunciation practice at many things is really slick, especially its hook selection of listen or minimal pairs. Minimal pairs are pairs word like sleep and sleep that are only different by one sound. You can click on each word to hear a complete sentence with each. Then, quiz yourself in the second box and click the correct words. Pronunciation and listening comprehension are linked together by an undivided system within which individual sounds are systematically related. Students need this sense of a system in order to make sense of the separate pieces. Gilbert, 1984. If the students' English pronunciation skills are improved, clearly their listening skill and speaking skills become more refined. Spelling skills are also improved when the knowledge of English pronunciation has been increased. Next, rules and instructions are inseparable tapes in pronunciation teaching materials, even though they were absent in L2 or foreign language classroom activities because of the classical misconception. Example, pronunciation cannot be thought. Silvera, 2002. However, such as misconception has gradually disappeared currently due to pronunciation instruction does not only embrace linguistic competence but also strategic competence, sociolinguistic competence, and discourse competence in terms of underpinning paradigm. Morley as cited in Silveira 2002. Furthermore, students were difficult to pronounce the words based on the right punctuation. As the example, when the learners pronounce the word about, some students pronounce it with the wrong pronunciation, namely about. Regarding to the problem above, the effective method need to be applied in teaching speaking. Direct method is regarded appropriate in teaching speaking. Punctuation refers to the set of marks that are used to regulate and clarify meaning and rhythm within a text. Punctuation helps to make the meaning of a text clear by linking or separating words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. This guide is designed to provide teachers and students with a common shared understanding of what punctuation is and how to use it effectively in all genres of writing. It has consciously been written in simple language, so a teacher can use this example directly with students.
Direct method is the first attempt to experience in the language directly in the language learning. It stresses the teachers and students to the development of new technique of learning, such as demonstration of picture or object, the emphasis on question and answer, spoken narrative, dictation, and imitation. Furthermore, this method needs teachers who are native speaker or have fluency in the foreign language they teach. From the beginning, the student were asked to respond in the target language. The teacher provide the student relay as learning media such as picture, relay object, and simple action to support the learning process. Correct pronunciation is also emphasized, but correct structure is not. In general, the direct method use native speaker as teacher, and the teaching method is by demonstrating image or subject. Norland and Terry in 2006 describe how to apply the direct method in teaching as follows. 1. The teacher shows a set picture that often portray life in the country of the target language. Number 2. The teacher describe the picture in the target language. Number 3. The teacher asks question in the target language. And number 4. Student answer the question in the target language about the picture. Pronunciation is corrected, but grammatical structure is not. Number 5. Student may also read a passage in the target language about reading. And number 6. The teacher asks question in the target language about the reading. And the last, student answer question as best they can use the target language. So the conclusion is the direct method used by Norland is to use the question and answer method, but the answer with the target language. I want to describe what benefit in using direct method in teaching at language course. First, student will pay attention to the teacher because they get interested to know deeper about the language. Second, student know many new words by listening to the teachers. Student get new vocabulary in the language they learn. So the teacher explain a new word to the student, and the student listening that, and they get a new word. Third, student can have pronunciation like native speaker. Why? Because their teacher is native speaker. They will imitate the way teacher speaking. 4. Learners often try on the conversation, especially topic which have teaching in the classroom. The student can conversation with her classmate. 5. This method has principle which can be used by private schools which have few lessons at student. In the use of this method, when students make mistake in the use of grammar or pronunciation, students are asked to do self-correction. Self-corrections mean the student correct their mistake by themselves. Teacher would help them in realizing their own mistake. In the classroom, students often made some mistakes such as mispronunciation and grammatical error. It caused the student took the big role in the class activity. The conclusion is that when teacher use this method, student can correct their own mistake. The key aspect of this method are introduction of new word, number, alphabet, character, sentence, or concept referred to as an element. Number 1. So point to visual art or gesture for verbs to ensure student clearly understanding what is being taught. For the example, student can learn from activity demonstrated by the teacher. Number 2. Say. Teacher verbally introduce element with care and enunciation. Number 3. Try. Student makes various attempts to pronounce new element. Number 4. Mold. Teacher corrects student if necessary, pointing to much to show prepare shaping of lip tongue. The last is syntax, the correct location of new element sentence. Number 1 is say and repeat. Teacher states phrase and sentence to student. Student repeat such 5 until 20 times. Number 2, ask and reply in negative. Teacher use element in negative situation. For example, Are you the president of United States? Are you the student? Are you the teacher? Student says no. If more advanced, may use the negative with no. Number 3, interrogative. Teacher provide intuitive example using 5 what, why, who, where, when, and how. Use random variation to practice. Number 4, pronounce with verb. Using visual such as photo or illustration or gesture. Teacher cover all pronoun. Use many random variations such as is Anna a woman? Are they from France? To practice. And the last, use and question. Student must choose and utilize the correct element as well as posing appropriate question as teacher give.
Okay, let's continue the third subchapter of the key aspect of this method. Number 3, progress from new element to new element within same lesson. And the first, random sequencing. And number 1, after new element, this is variable x, is taught and learned. Go to the next element, it's y. With this kind of learning, it is certainly to reduce the level of boredom and increase knowledge for student. And then after next element, it is variable y, is taught and learned. Return to practice with the element variable x. This is intended to enable student to recall past lessons. Number 3, after these two are alternate x, y, yx, yy, and many more alternate, go to third element, variable z. It is possible that in one of the meeting, it is possible to discuss lessons variable x and y simultaneously so that they are related to each other. And number 4, go back to 1, go back to first and second, mix in 3, practice x, y, z, y, x, or z, u, y, and continue repeat each step in each lesson so that students are able to define the previous lesson. Building up to appropriate a number of elements, maybe as many as 20 per lesson, depending on student, practicing all possible combination and repeating 5 into 20 times each combination. Next, B. Student lead limits. The first, observe student carefully to know when mental saturation point is reached, indicating student should be taught more element until another time. As educator, we must understand the student where the saturation points occur. This greatly affect the enthusiasm and concentration level of student. Second, at this point, stop imparting new information and simple do reviews. If you feel the material provided is sufficient, let's stop and conduct an evaluation so that it is known what state the student ability have reached. And number 3 is review. Keep randomly arbitrary sequencing. If appropriate, use visual pointing quickly to each. Employ different examples of elements that are easy to understand. Changing country or city names, people names, and word student already knows. Keep a list of everything taught so proper testing may be done. And the observation and notation. Teacher should maintain a student list of word or phrase that are most difficult for that student. The list is called a special attention list. And then number 4, from progress is progress from listen to listen. Number 1, listen review. The first few minutes of each lesson are to review priority lessons. This thing aims to make a student remember compulsory reason. Next, global review. Transition from lesson review to a comprehensive review, which should always include it from the special attention list. Number 5, advanced concept. Intermediate and advanced student may skip some element introduction as appropriate because aware of student language abilities, so they are not frustrated by too much review. If students immediately show recognition and knowledge, move to next element. Non-standard alphabet. Teaching students to recognize letter and character and reading words should employ some step as in above aspect. I and alphabet variation may be taught using aspect 3. Writing character and words should initially be done manually, either on paper or whiteboard. Next, country accent. Any student at intermediate stage or higher should be made aware of subtle variation in pronunciation which depend on geography within a country or from country to country. Another major activity frequently appearing in pronunciation specific. You can read at the presentation above. This may indicate that although material for the pronunciation teaching have changed extensively over the past 50 years, from focusing on the accurate isolated sounds producing to emphasizing on communication aspects such as connected speech. Next, spelling and dictation in pronunciation training. The spelling of English word is different from the normal spelling. For example, this helps the student learn pronunciation symbols sound quickly by practicing the sound in spelling activity. Many students were used to spell the English word with the old way of spelling the English sound, such as spelling of the English word is useless and guides the real pronunciation sound. About vocabulary place, great emphasis on grammar, and next, formal evaluation are not often found this method, and then students are asked to use the target language either orally or in writing. As example of an evaluation in this method, student may be interviewed directly by a teacher or may be asked to write a paragraph directly about something they have learned. This method actually very appropriate to be used at the beginning and above level because the student feels he has the material to talk, and of course, so the student feels really challenged to speak, communicate. Then sensation can be imposed for those who use everyday language. Okay, that's our review of material. There are errors in pronunciation, intonation, speech. That please our hearts, we apologize to you all. We really need input such as constructive criticism and suggestions. So please leave a comment below and we will be happy to read it. That's all from our group. See you on another presentation. Bye bye.